then you can keep one up here. But did everybody pick your workbook up? If you didn't, let me just point something out to you. On the last page of your workbook for next week, I put basically for you what is a cheat sheet, okay? As we go into this, the end here, it gets messy as far as chronology, and I understand that, the prophets, they overlap, and they prophesied during the reign of more than one king, and it just becomes very complicated. So what I did for you is I tried to set up a table that explained to you when the exiles came back, who they came back with, who was king at the time, and where the prophets kind of fall in there. And I also placed Esther in there for you so you can kind of see where Esther happens, because we skipped that. And so I want to make sure that you get all of that, kind of get a timeline. So there's nothing for you to do other than if you get lost during the week and you're reading and in the workbook of where am I in the timeline, where are things happening, this should help you place yourself during that reading of who came back when, and who came back with who, and who was king at that time, and who was the prophets at that time. So it's just a cheat sheet for you, basically. But I realize it does get messy and confusing, and part of the beauty of this study is it is chronological. But at the very end there, it gets kind of wacky if you don't know some key things. So I wanted to make sure that I provided that for you. This week we talk about Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these are great stories, and these are stories that we have known since we were children, probably. These are stories that they love to teach in the nursery because it's something that a child's mind can really grab onto. So we know, we kind of wrestle with the familiarity maybe of this material. But I wanted to try to make it something that you can apply in your life. I want to start by kind of setting the setting, if you will. Understand that at the time that Daniel is carried into exile, they think he's probably only 15, maybe 16. I don't know what y'all were like at 15 or 16. This would have been a much different story if it had been me. That's really what I'm going to say about that. I think he exhibits just an extraordinary amount of maturity spiritually to have been a 15 or 16-year-old young man. He was clearly raised in a godly home. We can assume that by the way he handles himself in the Babylonian court. What I would say to you is we also can assume that he came from an upper class, because that's who they took. They took the cream of the crop, if you will, from the Jews, and then moved them into the Babylonian court and began to do what you and I would consider basically assimilate them into the culture. He was at a very vulnerable age. At 15 or 16, we are very vulnerable. If you've been 15 or 16, or more importantly, if you've raised a 15 or 16-year-old, you realize how susceptible they are to influences around them. And so he was very vulnerable to have been taken from what was clearly a godly home, clearly a Jewish home, and then be dumped into what would be a very worldly Babylonian court, assimilated, exposed to all of their culture, and to the best of it at that. This story could have ended very differently. I want to look at Daniel 1:4. I guess I need to back up to 3 to really get the whole sentence in. Then the king ordered Ashpenaz, the chief of his officials, to bring some of the sons of Israel, including some of the royal family and of the nobles, and that's where you get this upper class, youths in whom was no defect, who were good-looking, showing intelligence in every branch of wisdom, endowed with understanding and discerning knowledge, and who had ability for serving in the king's court. So that's what they're doing. They're preparing them to serve in the king's court. And he ordered him to teach them the literature and language of the Chaldeans. And that's where he immerses them in the culture of Babylon. That they were brought in for that purpose. And then if you drop on down to verse 8, it says, But Daniel had made up his mind he would not defile himself with the king's choice food or with the wine which he drank. So he sought permission from the commander of the officials that he might not defile himself. The first, and I titled this Lessons from the Lion's Den, because I think there's much to learn about why he was able to go through that, and to go through that in a way that glorified God. And there are lessons that we can apply in our life if we want to be able to go through those times. We can look at things that he did, the way he conducted himself, that put you and I in a position also to go through the lion's den that we will all face at some point in our life in a way that glorifies God. The first thing I said was to be a good scout. What is the scout's thing? It's always to be prepared, right? If I'm going to be a good scout, I'm going to be prepared. And it's right there in 1:8. Daniel made up his mind he would not defile himself. In the fire, in the lion's den, is not the time to decide where the line is. I have to have already made up my mind. I have to resolve where's the line? What is the line that I do not cross? We understand that. We teach that to our kids. You need to already know, no matter who you're out with and what's made available to you, you need to have already made up your mind who you are and what kind of life you're going to live and what is and is not acceptable for you. You need to know that. You can't just make that decision on the fly as things are coming at you. As Christians, as adults, we don't always do that. We have not committed to what is the line. Where is the line for me? What will I not do? What will I not tolerate? Who am I? We have to have made that decision well before that time comes. He did, obviously, for the most part, participate willingly with the system that he was placed under. And you might question, well, why would he do that? Why not buck it when they tell me I have to read the literature, when I have to learn the language, or when I have to do these other? He didn't. But let's go back to what the prophets said. The prophets told them, you're going to go into captivity, and you are to go willingly. You're to go willingly. You're going to be exiled. You're going to be taken captive. You're to go willingly. You're going to have wives there. You're going to have jobs there, and you're going to be there for a while. That's your reality. So it would not have benefited him to try to just buck the whole system. What he had to do was know, where is the line for me? To what extent can I participate in life here? And where is the line for me where I say no more? And what he said is, I drew the line at defiling himself. In other words, if it doesn't affect my holiness, then I'll participate and I'll cooperate. He drew the line at his holiness. He would not defile himself. There's a lesson for that for me too. If he had bucked all along the way on every tiny thing, and disrespected them over every tiny thing. Here's what happens. You become so isolated that God can't use you. Because I'm supposed to be in the world, but not of the world. So if I take issue over every single thing, I put myself in a position where God can't even use me. Because what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to reach the lost. Well, if I'm offended by everything they say, everything they do, everywhere they go, how am I going to go where they are and witness to them and be involved with them? I become so isolated because I'm so offended by everything that I no longer have contact with lost people. I no longer have an opportunity to witness to those people. You and I are exiles. This is not our home. Okay? This is not our home. But while we are here, we are to reach as many people as we can. I draw the line at my personal holiness. But I can only reach people if I continue to have contact with them. I have to be able to interact with them. We're going to talk a little bit about that later. We'll talk a little bit more about that. The second one is consistency counts. What do we know that he did? We know that he prayed 3 times a day. We are told that he prayed 3 times a day, every day, and everyone knew it, obviously, because it's the way they got him singled out in the first place. Everyone knew that he prayed 3 times a day. Let me give you some examples of why that consistency counts. And the first one is resist bitterness. Do you notice there is no root of bitterness in him over being exiled? I think I would be. I think if you came and you plucked me up out of my country, killed many of my countrymen, separated me from my family, forced me to live in your court, and participate in your culture, I think I would be bitter. I think I would.
Also, that may be confusion.
Well, there's that.
So, for a lot of them, that would be like...
That really does cap it, doesn't it? Yeah. But there's no root of bitterness in him. Despite all that's happened to him. And I say, look at Daniel 6:21. Daniel has just come out of the lion's den. He has just been pulled back up out of the lion's den. And he says, Daniel spoke to the king, "O king, live forever." I would have said something to that king, it would not have been, "O king, live forever." After I got dumped in a pit with lions, I have many things to say. That is not the one that comes to mind. Absolutely, there's no root of bitterness in him whatsoever. He's completely submitted to and at peace with the situation that he's in. That doesn't mean he likes it. It means he's not bitter about it. He's at peace with it. Do you think the fact that he prayed 3 times a day might have been part of that? Yeah. That relationship that he had with God, that spiritual maturity that developed over that commitment, puts me in a place where I can resist bitterness. It's not easy to love the lost. It's not always easy to love the lost. Let's just be honest. There's a lot of hate speak now about people of different beliefs and different cultures. And I'm going to venture to say that if they actually came and took us captive and we had to live in exile in their country, bitterness would be an issue. I hear bitterness now, and we have been taken captive and forced to live in exile in that country. And I hear hate speak all the time because they're of a different belief and a different culture. I don't see that. I don't see that with David. They were his captors. They were. But there's no sign of bitterness there. You know, and I thought of another good example that came to me was Joseph. And you know, we know all the things that happened to Joseph. I mean, a lot of things happened to Joseph, and it all started with what? It started with his brothers who sold him into slavery, and likewise, he winds up having to live in another country, right? But at the end of Genesis, what does he say to his brothers? You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. There's no evidence of bitterness. That only happens if you have that consistent spiritual walk. It's the only way you escape that root of bitterness. The second was an attitude of gratitude. Do you think that's important to resisting the bitterness? To maintain being grateful and having an attitude of gratitude. It is, look at Daniel 2:23. To thee, O God of my fathers, I give thanks and praise, for thou hast given me wisdom and power, and even now thou hast made known to me what we requested of thee, for thou hast made known to us the king's matter. He's in exile. Nebuchadnezzar is demanding that he interpret dreams and visions for him. You know, what would be your first thought is, figure it out yourself. Why should I tell you? Why should I tell you? Instead, what I see is Daniel thanking God for revealing that to him, and him having the opportunity to share that, and to be before Nebuchadnezzar, and have a chance to be a witness before Nebuchadnezzar. Can I be grateful when I'm in places I don't want to be, with people I don't want to be with? I can be, if I can see the upper story. If I'm just determined to look at the lower story, then yes, all I see is I'm a place I don't want to be, with people I don't want to be with, dealing with things I don't want to deal with. And I shouldn't have to deal with. But if I can look for that upper story, I can be grateful, because I can say, you had me here for this time, for a reason, and I'm grateful and thankful for the opportunity to be used. Would that affect my root of bitterness developing? That maturity, that deep spiritual roots, prayed 3 times a day, and the consistency of that put him in a position where he could face the lion's den the way that he did. The third was remain respectful. Over and over it says he sought permission. I sought permission. And he always speaks very respectfully. And I'm very impressed by that. Because we were talking about this earlier. We live in a culture now where if I don't agree with you, I somehow think that gives me permission to disrespect you. To say disrespectful things about you. I see nowhere God gives me permission to speak disrespectfully to someone or about someone, whether or not I agree with them. Daniel is always respectful. Nehemiah was another good example of that. If you remember the very beginning of Nehemiah, And he's grieving because his country has not been rebuilt. The walls of the temple have not been rebuilt. And he goes to the king and he says, you know, I'm grieving for my country and I would seek permission to go back. And Cyrus really, you know, blesses him with traveling papers and supplies and those sort of things, safe transit and stuff. Here's what I would say is when I am disrespectful to people because I disagree with them, it doesn't matter. I mean, they may be wrong as they are wrong. I'm not saying they're not wrong. I'm saying when I'm disrespectful to them, will I ever have a chance to witness to them? Will they hear anything that I say? They're going to hear anything I say. I can destroy my witness and the opportunity for God to use me if I disrespect people. If somebody's told me I'm stupid and I'm a moron and I'm a whatever, then they double back in a couple of weeks and they want to witness to me. You think I'm listening to anything? No. Because I have seen who you are. And I've seen that you don't live what you say you believe. It's very important. Regardless of the situation in which we find ourselves, and it may be a place we don't want to be, people we don't really want to be with, dealing with something we really don't want to deal with, I have to remain respectful of people. My first and foremost command from God, what were the two greatest commandments? Do you remember? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might, with all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. You tell me how I get around that it's okay for me to be disrespectful for anybody. You didn't say love the ones that are lovely or love the ones that agree with you. Love them. We lose opportunities to witness when we are not respectful of other people. Daniel maintained that, and eventually he had that opportunity to speak into Nebuchadnezzar's life. And a large part of that had to do with the fact that he had maintained that relationship. Integrity, walk the talk. Here it is, when it's getting real. Will I do the right thing? Daniel, all the way up to the lion's den, had done all the right things, and he had said all the right things. But here's when I find out if I have integrity. It's right when they start to shove me into the lion's den. Then I find out how much integrity I have. When it gets real, will I do the right thing? Will I do what I've said I would do? Will I do what lines up with what I say I believe? Daniel stuck it out. He had integrity. And when it came time, and he could have avoided that line, all he had to do was close his windows and quit praying. Fly under the radar for a little bit until things cool down. But he didn't. He continued because he had integrity. I gave you Philippians 1:21, and let's just look at that for a minute, and I'll kind of toss this out there, and maybe you think on that this week. For me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. When the rubber meets the road, I'll find out if I believe that or not. I can say that all day long. You know what hasn't happened to me yet? I haven't been dangled outside of lines yet. Then I'll find out, right before they drop me in, whether or not I believe that. If I believe that for me to live as Christ and to die as gain, that is a win-win, guys. I can't lose on that. If God lets me live, I get to live and continue to serve Christ, and that's fantastic. If God decides this is the day I'm out of here, hallelujah, I'm out of here. But I find that out right as they shove me in the lines again. Do I have that integrity? Do I believe what I say I believe? We get a chance at the end. I'll share part of the conversation I had with somebody I love very much about that. Lessons from the furnace. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Let's talk about what they and what they have to show us about how to face the furnace, how to prepare. The first is the encouragement of fellowship. Those three guys, they stuck together. Stuck together. How do I know that that is important? It's not just happenstance. When, look at Mark 6:7. I won't just quote this one, we'll look at it. This is Christ preparing to send out the disciples. And in verse 7 it says, He summoned the 12 and He began to send them out in pairs. He was giving them authority over the unclean spirits. Why pairs? I mean, it could cover twice as much ground if you send them out by themselves. We need fellowship. We need the encouragement of fellowship. Here's what we know. Loners are vulnerable. Loners are vulnerable. We're easy to pick off on our own. You have people that'll tell me all the time that they don't, yes, I believe in God, but I don't have to go to church. You're right, you don't. You're just not going to fare very well. We need the encouragement of one another, and we need to be an encouragement to one another. Look at Hebrews 10:25. Actually, let's back up to 24. I'll just throw that one in. Hebrews 10:24 through 25. Let us consider. In other words, let's think about how to stimulate one another to love and good deeds, not forsaking our own assembling together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. I'm always struck by that verse. Missing from that is any mention of a pastor's responsibility. Because that's who we expect to do that. That's who we put that on. But in fact, he says for us to do this for one another. We need to think about how we can stimulate one another to good deeds and how we can encourage another person. Do you think our churches are weaker because we are not doing that in the way that we could? Could they be stronger if we did that? If all of us set out how to figure out how to stimulate another person to do good works and to encourage them? What would it mean to you if somebody set out to do that for you? I have those people in my life, and I can tell you, there is no price you can put on that. That person who constantly stimulates you to do good works and encourages you. There is no price you can put on that. The value of that in your life. If you don't have those people in your life, find them. That is my counsel to you. Find them. Find them. Have that dialogue. Look, I need accountability. I need encouragement. I want to be an encourager to you. I want to reciprocate that, but I need to surround myself with people who do this for me and that I have the opportunity to do that with. If you don't have that, find it. You need it because we are vulnerable without it. We're easily picked off. Remember the goal. What is the goal? The goal is to glorify God wherever He puts me. It might not be where I want Him to put me. It might not be what I would have chosen. But the goal is for me to glorify God wherever He puts me. We think, and my husband uses this phrase and it just cracks me up. He always says, well, you just got to live to fight another day. Sometimes that's true. I just try to live to fight another day. But here's the reality of it. Sometimes glorifying God means I have to die. Stephen. Was Stephen surviving? Would that have been the way God received the most glory? Obviously not. How many people have been touched, ministered to by Stephen in the Scripture? Who do we know saw that and was influenced by it? Paul. Read Hebrews, read the faith chapter. Sometimes God's glory calls for me to die. That's the reality of it. We think, we got to just live to fight another day. Maybe not. Maybe God's chosen me to die. I have to be willing to glorify God wherever He places me. If that's a wine's den, if it's a fiery furnace, if it's being stoned like Stephen, I have to accept that God's placed me where I am for His glory. Here's what happens, though. We get fixated on the lower story, which is survival is the most important thing. You got to survive. You got to fight. To live to fight another day. The upper story tells me, maybe not. What you have to do is glorify God. Maybe that means it's living, and maybe it means dying. They had accepted that. Look at Daniel 3. Daniel 3, verses 17 and 18. From Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, we hear, if it be so, our God whom we serve, He's able to deliver us from the furnace of blazing fire, and He will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But even if He does not, let it be known to you, O king, we're not going to serve your gods or worship the golden image that you set up. They didn't know how it was going to end. We want to think that they went into that fiery furnace knowing God would not let them burn up. Says who? God allowed Stephen to be stoned. Says who? They didn't know when they went in there what was going to happen. They said it doesn't matter. Either He saves us or He doesn't save us. He's still God, and I'm still not bowing down to your gods. Only a picture of the upper story allows me to do that. Where I realize, hey, if I die, I won. The lower story will never tell me that. If I die, I lost. Upper story tells me, no, sometimes you die, you won. You just glorify God. That's where He placed you for that time. Hold on. Hold on for God to be glorified. Hold on. It's the hardest thing to do sometimes. It's just to hold on. Because I don't see God doing what I think He needs to be doing. It's not happening. I don't understand. I mean, why didn't God stop it before I ever got to the lion's den? Why didn't God smite the almighty smiter? Why did you let them do that? Why didn't God smite them before they ever put me in the fiery pit? Because then I would have never seen God do God-sized things. Right? I gotta hold on. I want to see God do God-sized things. I gotta hold on. I gotta be able to continue to walk faithfully and obedient when I'm thinking, he really should have done something there. I don't know what he's doing. Ooh, I don't see him doing anything. I don't know what's going to happen. I've got to be able to hold on. If I want to see God do God-sized thing, you and I got to hold on. When I'm backed up to the Red Sea, I got to do Exodus 14:13 and stand still to see the deliverance of the Lord. I got to hold on. We don't want to hold on. We want Him to intervene. We want Him to keep us from ever getting to the lion's den, to keep us from ever getting to the fiery pit. Here's what I'm telling you. If you want to see God do God-sized things, you got to hold on. And God will get the glory. I'm not going to tell you it's going to end well. It might not end very well for you. Then, Stephen died, and he got stoned. But God got the glory because He held on. May not end the way that you think. Don't interpret that as you failed. God gets the glory. If you and I will hold on, He'll get the glory. Our nature is to take matters into our own hands. Our nature is to go, well, God's not doing anything. Obviously, I should. Let me counsel you that's the worst idea ever. Don't do it. You wind up with an Ishmael. Don't do it. Hold on and let God show you what He can do. They only saw what they saw inside the den and inside the pit. That's the reality of it. They didn't see it until they were in it. You may not stop it before you're in it. You may be deep in it. Hold on. Hold on. The common denominator is that they maintain a hope in God's Word. They continued to claim God's Word. I cannot hold on to what I don't know. You cannot hold on to what you don't know. I wish I had time to elaborate on this, but I'll get on my soapbox and it'll never drag me off. My hope is in God's Word. It's right here. But it has to be right here for me to hold on to it. I can't hold on to what I don't know. The fact that it's in this book somewhere is fantastic. However, it does me no good unless I have planted it in my heart and in my mind. We are as strong as what we planted in our heart and our mind, guys. I know I get on you about meditating all the time. There is a reason for that. You are as strong as what is planted in your heart and in your mind. And you're as vulnerable as what you have not planted in your heart and mind. You're that exposed. Drown yourself in it. That's all I can say to you. They had to know all the scriptures by being told. They didn't have copies they could run around with. They couldn't run out to the car and grab their Bible. They couldn't run in there to their bedside table and grab the Bible. They had it all in their minds. Why? Because that's how they were taught. It was by oral tradition. That's how they learned it. You and I are very lazy because we know it's written down and there's an index and I can go look it up and I can find it. You know what? When I'm standing in the lion's den or in the pit, that ain't going to help me. You're only as protected as what you planted in your heart and your mind, because that's what the Holy Spirit can bring to mind when you're in the pit, when you're in the lion's den. Your hope is in God's Word. Plant it and hang on to it. Talk a little bit about notes from Nebuchadnezzar, because there's some things we can learn from him. I want to elaborate on the first because you know it, but it is pride will always result in a fall. You and I may not see it happen, but let me promise you, it happens. God humbles the proud. We look at the way some people fall and think, wow, how could they do that? How could they get, be careful. Because Satan may not get you that way, but he'll find another one. Maybe that's not your weakness. He'll find another one. Pride will result in a fall. Any area of my life in which I'm prideful, I'm vulnerable. I'm vulnerable. When God humbles us, a couple of things happen. And we read this all the way through the Old Testament, and particularly we read this a lot in Proverbs and Psalms because he speaks to it a lot there in particular. But when God humbles us, a couple of things happen. And I asked y'all this week in the workbook, why do you think God picked Nebuchadnezzar to humble? Why Nebuchadnezzar? Why single him? When God humbles us, that individual is confronted with God's sovereignty. God will confront us with his sovereignty. We saw that happen to Nebuchadnezzar. I'll tell you another really good example of that is Pharaoh. Pharaoh made the statement, I don't even know who your God is, so I don't know, I don't care. I don't know who your God is. I don't care. He got to be confronted with God's sovereignty, real up close and personal. Nebuchadnezzar got confronted with God's sovereignty, up close and personal. If you and I decide to be prideful in some area of our life, buckle up, Buttercup. You will come face to face with God's sovereignty over that area of your life. And he will keep coming at it until he makes a believer out of it. Part of why God humbles us is so that we are confronted with God's sovereignty. But it also works that it displays his sovereignty to other people. Who could have been the more powerful than Nebuchadnezzar? Who? I mean, God picked somebody who's like, oh, you think he's powerful? He's got all the power because he gathered all my people up. He's carried them into exile because, I didn't let him do that. Well, watch this. He's going to eat grass for a while. Check this out. So is he humbled while he's grazing, as it were? Yes. But all the kingdoms around, you think they didn't know that? You think they didn't see that happen? You don't think that they got a load of God's sovereignty as he humbled one person? How many people were influenced by that and saw what Israel's God could do? So in humbling one, God can display his sovereignty to many people in that way. Ultimately, what we always go back to is that God is glorified. When God humbles us, he is glorified by that. And look at Romans 9:17. does not depend on the man who wills or the man who runs, but on God who has mercy. For the scripture says to Pharaoh, this very purpose I raised you up, to demonstrate my power in you, that my name might be proclaimed throughout the whole earth. You know, he said, I raised you up expressly for the purpose of humbling you, so that the whole world would see my glory when I humbled you. It's not speculation. Is that why God would do that? He flat out said that's what I did. He made it very clear. I raised you up. Do you think he raised Nebuchadnezzar up so that he could humble him and by that display his sovereignty and be glorified? Oh yeah. Does he still do that? Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. Here's my encouragement to you. Even the humble can be exalted. Nebuchadnezzar, how did that story end? We don't leave him on the vegan diet. He comes to his senses. He confesses. He bows down to God. And God exalts him. Do we see him humble the Israelites time and time again, only to restore them? How many times does God humble the Israelites? And then they confess and they repent and he restores. But Joseph, was he humble? Yeah, he was humble. He was humble. But how does he end up? He ends up the governor of Egypt. God used him in a mighty way to save his own people during a time of famine. How about Samson? There's a good example. Samson. You want to talk about getting humbled? That guy had some pride issues. God dealt with that. Oh, did God deal with that? When you wind up blind, grinding meal like a donkey, you have been humbled. Did God raise him up and use him in the end? God did raise him. Did he have to be humbled first? Paul was blinded. He was struck blind. Had to be led around. And then have a Christian, person he was seeking to kill, come and tell him how to have his sight restored and how to enter into right relationship with God. This proud Pharisee. Maybe you've been humbled. It doesn't mean God's done with you. It means he's prepared you. It may happen again. Because we have a tendency to let areas in our life get out of balance. When we decide we kind of got that one stabilized, and I'm not worried about it, I would never fall for that again. I would never do that. That's when Satan's going to pick and right with that step out. He's just because he knows you're not paying attention. You think you've got that under control, but that don't like that. Maybe you've been humbled. You may be humbled again. Here's what I'm saying to you. God will still use you. We confess and repent. He will restore us and he will lift us up and he will use us in a way that glorifies him. It doesn't mean he's done with you. Going back to Philippians 1:21, for me to live as Christ and to die as gain. Do I believe that? I had a good friend tell me one time, she said, here's what I struggle with. As I hear Christians say that, and that they're all living to get to heaven. But they seem to fight as hard to stay here as anybody else. I said, well, what do you mean? She said, I mean, you tell them they're dying of something, they're fighting harder than as hard as anybody else to save their life. And you break in their house and try to steal something, those very people that tell me that life is sacred and they protest over abortions will pull out a gun and shoot somebody to save their own life. They're not afraid of murder to save their own life. Because they're that desperate to stay here. So I really have a hard time believing that they really mean what they say. And it took me aback. It still takes me aback. Am I willing to try to live at all costs? Am I willing to try to live at the cost of somebody else's life? Does my life bear out the fact that I think to live as Christ but to die is gain? Do the things that I say I believe and the things that I do bear that out? And it's still a challenging question today. I'm still challenged by that. And I had to tell her I understand. Totally understand what you're saying. Because not all the decisions that we make are consistent with that statement. Right. We have to make up our mind now. Before we're in the pit, before we're in the lion's den. Where is that line? Where is the line for me? Because if I wait until I'm in the pit or in the den, it's too late to get that out. And I will fall. Questions, comments, thoughts? Do you find that question challenging? I found that question very challenging, very convicting, and very challenging. Does everything I say line up with that? Am I willing to kill somebody else to preserve my own life? Do I want somebody else to kill somebody to save my own life? It's a question I have to deal with. If to die is to gain, am I clinging too tightly to this life? Something I have to do. Any thoughts on that? I know that's a deep one. That's for me. We've had the conversation several times, you know, she and I talked about that. Anything?
One that struck me was, you talk about you must know His Word, it must be in your heart, in your mind, and you're as vulnerable as what you don't know. And so often I found that so true that I'm in situations, whether it's depression or whatever, but I just need the scripture in my head. If I'm doing good, if I can,
Yeah.
it's not something I think I'll look up, but just, maybe all night, just reciting the scripture.
Need it when
to
I need it.
yourself, and it's so valuable.
It is. It is. I don't think we realize how vulnerable we are. Most of our, we're blissfully unaware of the spiritual warfare that goes on with us all the time because we live on such a lower story plane that we are completely oblivious to spiritual warfare that is going on around us and within us and against us until all of a sudden I need that hope. I need those verses. I need that planted in my heart and I realize I don't have it. Coming up short. The time to do it is now. That's what I would say to you. The time to do it is now. And I don't just rant about meditating on God's Word because I have to have something to rant about, because I realize how vulnerable you are. Because I know how vulnerable I am. I'm as vulnerable as what I don't know. Anything else? I gave you another verse to meditate on this week. It's on the top of your workbook. Or pick one of your own. You don't have to take the ones I give you, but I always try to give you something, so if you don't have something in mind, I want to jumpstart you a little bit. Anything else before we close? Oh, I do want to mention one thing, and you can go ahead and turn it off. Last time I taught this, and I ask this because we're fixing to finish the Old Testament here. Do you know anything about the canon and how you got it, and why we have the canon that we have? Does anybody know anything about it? Our Baptist churches are notoriously bad. We don't teach it. Other denominations are much better than we are.